Hey there. Welcome to this episode of Lights Out, your virtual campfire. I'm your hostess with the mostest ghosties, Sylvia Shults. One of the most exciting things a ghost hunter can do is spend the night sleeping in a haunted location. And one of the most exciting places to do this is in a haunted former hotel. Pack a pillow, some midnight snacks, and a sleeping bag because we are going lights out. In June 2021, I had the good fortune to return to Malvern Manor in Malvern, Iowa. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite places to visit because it is extremely active. The last time I'd been there, I could tell the building was full of energy, and that was in broad daylight. And this time, I was going to experience Malvern Manor at night. All night. First things first, our group was treated to a tour of the building by the owner, Josh Hurd.
I'll kind of walk you through and show you all the hot spots and all that fun jazz and walk you through some of the history and all of that. Guys, this room right here, in fact, like where you're sitting, this is just what we call the lobby area. So we know when the building was originally constructed, it was the 1870s. We also know it was the fourth structure that was constructed in town. So literally the town is kind of popping up around this monstrosity of a building. And we do know the original owner, the guy who started construction on the building, was that gentleman right there on the wall, and that's who we affectionately refer to as the captain. Captain Coolers was his name. He was one of the first people to really, come to the area, settle. Very strong ties to the community, but also the building as well. A lot of people claim to run into him up on the second floor. I'll show you where all that fun crap happens. But primarily, when this building was first a thing, it was a hotel, and mainly it was servicing the railroad. It was just a couple hundred yards out the front door, so people coming and going all the time. This room also doubled as a gentleman's parlor, where the guys would sit around and they would sip their whiskey and smoke their stogies and all of that fun crap. But guys, it ran as a hotel all the way up until the 1950s, so it had a pretty good run. At that time, it kind of takes an odd turn, becomes what we would consider to be more of like a nursing home type setting, right? That odd section of building over that direction that kind of jets out from everything else and just looks like it doesn't belong. That was put on in 1956 to accommodate that nursing home setting. So once you get back there, it certainly suggests some more medical atmosphere. Wider door frames, a lot of laminate floorings in the rooms themselves. But it ran as the nursing home only until the 1970s, so it wasn't that long, really. And this is where it becomes the group home. Group home is servicing any form of mental disorder we can possibly imagine. Things that we see every day. People with Down syndrome, people with drug and alcohol abuse, very common type ailments. And then of course you have people on the opposite side of the coin. More exotic cases, DID, or what we used to refer to as multiple personalities. Schizophrenics, even murderers are housed here. Like, this is a very odd group of people kind of living under the same roof and coexisting together. So it's very interesting. Now, the building ran as such, guys, all the way up until 2005, so it wasn't that long ago when this building was still in full swing. Everything else that you guys are about to see, we haven't touched. It is exactly in the state it was when we first walked into this building the better part of 7 years ago now, which is kind of stupid to say. Here's just what we call Gracie's room. Now, Gracie was one of those exotic type of patients. We do know that she was multiple personality, but also schizophrenic on top of all of that. She had a very chaotic mind state. Many times they would hear male voices coming from Gracie's room, and obviously have to go check that out because, having a guy in a girl's room is a big time no-no. But they would walk into the room and they would find it was just her. She was able to shift and manipulate her voice to sound male. One evening in particular, we do have on documentation 3 nurses came and sat with Gracie for just a single hour. during this hour, documented 13 separate distinguishable personalities, which is damn near medically unheard of, honestly.
Sybil.
Like, yeah, basically. Like, the wheelhouse is about 2 to 5 for somebody with an affliction like this. So she's certainly tipping the scales with 13. Now, guys, again, everything is how we found it, and I will say the creepy-ass dolls were added. I mean, my friends understand I hate dolls, and so they like to bust my chops a little bit. However, there is one really cool piece in this room that was original, and that is her glasses are still sitting right there.
Oh, right there.
Right there on that. Now, everything else on that shelf, I will say, has been added as well. People bring gifts, toys, things for her to move or manipulate in some way, right? But those glasses are certainly original to the room. She does tend to gravitate more towards men as well, for whatever reason that may be. Gentlemen especially, if you are sitting in the wheelchair, if you are lying in the bed, she will absolutely let you know you're in her space. So, and guys, we're going to cruise down here now. Guys, this is that newest section of the building that I was talking about earlier, that they added on in 1956. This is where that nursing station once sat. Now, you can even see there's still names here on the med cabinets. Obviously, any sensitive information we certainly removed from the building. I certainly don't want to step on toes of family. I don't feel like playing the HIPAA game or anything like that either. But guys, down here specifically, if you guys want to kind of bunch yourselves up a little bit and kind of look down this hallway, this is where the majority of people are experiencing what we just call the shadow man phenomenon. So guys, typically what happens, guys, is that room all the way down the hall on the right-hand side, that is room number 2. Typically a very tall, black humanoid figure comes out of room 2. He will turn and then run at you. Now,
has anybody just stood still and let him run?
I did once. I'll get there, I promise. It's a slow burn. But it is interesting because it's traveling the distance of, I mean, whatever this is, maybe 35, 40 feet possibly, in less than a second. It is moving that fast. So it is, your response is very primal. It is a very fight or flight type of response. This is also what sends the majority of people out the front door, myself included. So, it sucks. Now, what's interesting, though, and kind of getting to your point, right? Whenever this has happened, and we've observed this now, I mean, hundreds of times, as often as 4 times a day, so it is fairly significant. When this happens, nobody is getting hit, scratched, punched, or any of that crap, right? Quite literally, the second we flinch or duck, cover, run, whatever, it's done and over with. So maybe, to me, maybe suggesting something like residual in nature, right? Interestingly enough, it was the day after Paranormal Lockdown aired on TLC, right? A nurse that used to work here got a hold of me, and this section of hallway got a lot of airtime that night, right? She said the gentleman that occupied room 2 down there was 6'7", nonverbal, mentally deranged, had killed a few people in the past. Now, his little claim to fame apparently was whenever they were doing bed checks or rounds or whatever you want to call it, he would come out of the room and he would chase the nursing staff. But it fascinated me just because obviously we're seeing similar behaviors, right? So again, maybe suggesting something residual. The problem with that, and where I get very frustrated, is we can't seem to find the antecedent, right? And what is kicking this into motion? Time of day certainly doesn't seem to matter. Weather patterns, freaking moon phases do not seem to affect this, okay? Like, we're literally trying everything that we can. It just seems to be happening whenever it wants to. So whether it's residual, whether it's intelligent, we have no idea.
Groups versus individuals?
Interestingly enough, like, this building wants you alone. It very much wants you alone. And putting yourself in a group of 5, 10, whatever people, it's interesting to watch this happen, but it will try to separate you. Half of you will hear something coming from that direction. Half of you will hear something coming from there. And slowly but surely, without you even realizing it, you are now isolating yourself. And the building is just like playing puppet master with you. It sucks because then you finally realize what's going on. because then it's too late, right? But yes, interestingly enough, the more isolated you can be, probably the better results you may foster from that, right? Yep, absolutely.
Has anyone ever caught that on camera?
Supposedly they have. There's also a very interesting video on Google that I tried to call bullshit on. I don't know, but I'm calling bullshit still.
Okay.
I'm very tenacious when it comes to this. I really am. Like, I fully believe.
That's good.
But yeah, I'm kind of an ass. But I do have an EM pump there on the floor that is pumping out electromagnetic energy. Hopefully, Red Bull for ghosts. You know what I mean? So we'll see. Down here, at the other end of the hallway, I'll show you this.
Makes me wonder how the people were trying to figure it out.
You guys can cruise in that room as well.
Oh, another doll.
More dolls.
There's just dolls everywhere.
Dang.
I got under the chair. Under chair.
I'm okay with that doll.
Yeah? Yeah?
It's just Rapunzel.
I tell you what I've been doing with the dolls is I've been taking them to all these different like speaking engagements that I go to and stuff. And I like sell books and films and all that shit. And then I say for the dolls, I bring just a ton of them. And I'm like, yeah, make me an offer. People are like, 50 cents, sold. They're like, $50, sold. I don't care.
And now over here is Michael Myers' theme.
Exactly. I'm like, it's yours. Now, guys, this room is pretty interesting too, especially for female investigators. So the lady that was brought in here, her name was Rebecca. We do know that she was in her mid-30s, so she was quite young. She was dropped off by her husband, which apparently was something you could just do back in the day. Now we do know that she obviously thought, my husband doesn't love me. He doesn't find me attractive. This became quite the obsession for her. So much so, she would stand right here at this sink. She would look right into that mirror and she would pluck the hair out of her head, one by one by one.
Oh my gosh.
There's a medical term for that, and I would butcher it if I tried. But we do know because of this obsessive type behavior, she was very heavily medicated. The medication didn't really seem to take well. She stopped eating, she stopped drinking, she quite literally just wasted away to nothing. It's certainly one of the more sad stories that we have. But guys, female investigators seem to have the most luck in this room. And it's nothing violent or anything like that. It's tugging on your pant legs, playing with your hair.
Wanting sympathy.
Yeah, absolutely. But certainly nothing malicious. Now, I will also say there's a very interesting disembodied smell that will come and go. It's very sporadic. It almost smells like body odor. Maybe like somebody hasn't put on deodorant in a few days, right? And you will smell that. Now, you'll probably smell something very similar in Gracie's room that we were just in. And sporadically, it'll smell like urine, like very, very potent urine. But anyway, so guys, yeah, Rebecca, she's certainly one of my favorites, that is for sure. So, guys, now we can cruise upstairs. Well, I'm sure. So we, for the most part, up in here, for the most part? Okay. So one of the other first things that I did after acquiring this building is I ended up hiring a private detective, right? Really to lock down some of the history of the place. Like, it's very important that I'm not presenting people with a load of horse shit, right? But, also, yeah, no, I also wanted him to then spend a little extra time up here in this hallway specifically for reasons that you can see along the walls. There are little stains, smears, and things like that. Now, once you get here to room 22, guys, you'll notice it's been kind of smeared into the door. Once you round this corner, this is probably the most disturbing for me. It's very obvious somebody has grabbed a hold of the corner and was pulled away in some fashion. There's also a very large stain over here as well. Now, this gentleman did 3 different tests on 3 separate sections of this hallway. So he gave it a pretty fair shake, right? Each time it came back positive for human blood, so that is what you're observing, so probably don't touch it because it's gross. But he was also able to tell us that this was the same person, whoever it was. Very similar to the names on the cabinet downstairs. I certainly don't want to step on toes. I said that's probably enough. The questions I still have, I'm never going to have a definitive answer to. How it got here is a big one. Why it was never cleaned up is probably a bigger one. I would suggest, like, I know a lot of people in nursing and doctors and things like that. Blood is not going to stay on the walls of an active facility. In fact, it's going to be cleaned up within probably 3 to 5 minutes tops, right?
Yes.
I mean, even I worked at a school for 7 years. Like, we had to take that bloodborne pathogens bullshit training and all that stuff. Like, you know how to wipe the shit up. Okay, perfect. I would almost suggest that these stains came after this building fell into disuse in 2005. Maybe a squatter or something. I don't know. There was an altercation of some sort. I don't know. I mean, we could, you know, theorize for days on what happened. But regardless, it's pretty interesting stuff. There's some more down here. I mean, it just goes throughout the entire hallway, so I'm sure you'll pick it out. So let's cruise down this way. See if we can kind of squeeze ourselves into this room a little bit. In this area of the hallway is just kind of what we call the captain's area, the captain's room, the captain's hallway, whatever. But this is where people are running into a gentleman spirit referring to himself as the captain the most. Now, usually it's just a disembodied voice. Sometimes it is quite audible, asking things like, what's your business? Sometimes it's telling people to F off. Now, I will also say this, and I don't say this as a warning necessarily. I'm certainly not trying to sensationalize anything. However, I will say people have been scratched. They have been punched, bit, kicked. So it's not a very welcoming experience. Now, I will also say that's generally following a fair amount of provocation. So I'm not saying they're asking for it, but I mean, maybe they're asking for it. Like,
They might.
I've never had an issue with the captain. I'm also just kind of the guy that cuts the grass and stocks the toilet paper. You know what I mean? At the same time, like, I think maybe there's a mutual respect here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm certainly not trying to ruffle feathers or anything like that. So, but guys, down here now. This is gonna be a little more. All right. Now, guys, this is what we call Susie's room. Everything that we know about Susie is we know she was a middle-aged patient, but mentally probably closer to around 8, maybe 9. Found a lot of coloring books, activity books. Now, people have started to add to her collection, which is really cool. But we openly invite people to color in these books if you'd like. Leave her a note or a message, as you can kind of see here on the walls.
Right.
She loves the interaction with people. Now, what's interesting about it is the activity seems to be contained to this room. Every other resident spirit around here will follow you and mess with you all day and night long, and they're fairly transient. And she'll stay put. Now, we're not quite sure why. Every time that I ask or try to coax her out of the room in certain ways, like I've set a birthday party type crap at the end of the hallway, it's always the same response. I can't leave. I'm scared. He won't let me leave. And I don't know who he is that she's referencing, obviously. But she is a lot of fun. She just likes the company. She just likes the interaction. That's it. So, yeah. Now, guys, we're going to go to the last room on the right-hand side if you want to start to kind of squeeze in there. Freaking dolls, man. I'm going to hit the lights real quick, guys.
I
That,
don't like
this
her.
doll over here in the blue dress.
It's terrifying.
Well, yeah. One of my best friends in the world is Johnny from the Villisca house, right? And yeah, Johnny likes to bust my chops, especially with the dolls, and she was in the Villisca house for 15 years before Johnny decided it was a good idea for her new home to be Malvern Manor, which
Oh, that's just mean.
I don't know why they do it. But
You need to
regardless,
send shit back.
I do. I do. We have a lot of fun. But guys, this is kind of the biggest unsolved mystery that we have, right? But this is what we call Inez's room. The story with Inez Gibson is we know the year was 1900. It was December 21st. So right around Christmas time, 12-year-old Inez Gibson is outside playing with her 8-year-old brother Otto. She's cold or she's bored, but she says, I'm going upstairs. We know 10 minutes pass. Her brother Otto comes upstairs, finds his sister Inez hanging by her jump rope in the closet.
Oh my God.
It looks like a suicide. It kind of smells like a suicide. Like, these kids had a very tough go of life up until this point, right? Maybe further suggesting suicide, I'm not sure. What we do know is Otto tries to get her down, and he can't. He's 8 years old and not strong enough to do so. He runs to the grocery store. That's where Aunt and Uncle were working that day. Now, Aunt and Uncle had also just become adopted mom and dad. So, a very new living situation, a very tough go of life again. He grabs them. He grabs 2 doctors as well, which just seems like dumb luck, in my opinion, for small-town Iowa, right? in 1900 especially. They race back. They get her down. They try to help. Way too much time had passed. There was just no helping her, right? This story shook the entire community. Even one of the doctors trying to help her that day committed suicide 10 days later. Like, the story gets messy, right? Now, what I can tell you guys is one of the most active spirits we have here is a little girl claiming to be Inez Gibson, and you will very audibly hear her running up and down these halls. She will call you by name. She will ask you to come and play, things like that. Now, sometimes we entertain that, and obviously other times it's just another smoke break for Josh, right? I can honestly, definitively tell you guys now that we know 100% definitively that Inez Gibson never died here. The story I just told you actually happened, but never here. It happened across the street.
Oh, I'll be game.
So why the hell in her afterlife she would be here, we don't know. Now, I would suggest...
What are all the coins for?
We don't. People are just bringing them. So
Because
that's another thing. So
on my app it said coin.
oh, that's cool.
I saw a coin and I didn't
Yeah,
think
on my app.
It is interesting because like she's certainly receiving a lot of attention. People bringing gifts, toys, money. In the second drawer down in that dresser, it's full of jump ropes, which may be in poor taste. I don't know. You could use that as you could use it as a trigger object too. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Especially if you hung it up in the closet.
Which we've done. I mean, you know, people do that all the time. It is interesting though. So she's very interesting, and then the piano thing on the floor, which is just touch sensitive.
Right.
She loves that.
Kennedy has one.
Oh boy.
A lot of fun.
Yeah,
The guys,
This is the room I got cussed out in.
right?
I put the shirt on and I didn't get any reaction.
Male or female?
It was a male voice that came over.
Yep. He'll give you a tongue lashing, that's for sure.
That shirt was ripe too.
So guys, this room right here, and you guys can come in, kind of pack in here a little more if you'd like too. Now guys, this is what we call Hank's room, or Henry's room, and I always just say it kind of depends on the day and what he wants to be called. He's your very stereotypical grumpy old man, right? Like he would sit on the front porch where we all first met, and he would throw rocks at children. He's just kind of an ass. You also kind of want to be that guy, right? But we also know that he has a very strong dislike for females. Ladies, he does not enjoy the company of ladies. He will call ladies pretty much any vulgar name you can imagine, and his vocabulary is pretty epic for the most part. But again, everything is how we found it, including even the clothes here in the dresser drawer, which the clothes seem to be that catalyst for the activity, right? So messing with the clothes, folding the clothes, ladies especially putting on the clothes, that is usually enough to elicit a response. Now, I will also show you guys this as well, and for those of you that aren't in here can check this out later if you want. It has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that it's flippin' gross, but there are fingernail clippings.
Ew.
Right. In the top drawer over here, there are fingernail clippings. Now, again, just something that we have found that we haven't touched. Not that I'm touching them, because it's pretty gnarly, right? So yeah, maybe we got some Hank DNA or something. Right?
Ooh, there you go.
Make a Hank clone one day. Not that we should. So guys, there's one more area to go, and that would be up in the attic. It is going to be about 3 degrees cooler than the surface of the sun, and probably very similar to Satan's butthole, okay? Like it's going to be very, very, very warm. You will be sweating in places you didn't realize there were glands, okay? But we're going to go ahead and pack ourselves up there if we can. It's interesting, we don't know what the purpose of this attic was, but there's trim and baseboards, moldings, paint. Like even this old chimney has a paint job on it, right? Now, so I would suggest there was probably a purpose.
And trim.
Yep. So they knocked this chimney down because it was the cause of all the fire damage you see up there. Which looks like, to me, it was probably lucky for them that the fire department's right across the street, because it looked like it got pretty goddamn hot. But guys, usually up here it's a lot of growling, scratching, disembodied voices telling you things like, F off, die, I'm Satan himself, alright? So it's not a very welcoming experience. Now I will also say it gets interesting because the majority of these noises are coming from just on the opposite sides of the walls. Now, again, I'm very tenacious when it comes to this shit. So I initially thought it was probably a family of raccoons or something very similar, right? Like, it's an old-ass building, it's very feasible. Now the only place I can really investigate that further is back here on either side. There are crawl spaces back here on either side, right? And they go the entire length of the walls and all the way back there. It's really freaking cool.
Or really
But
freaking scary.
it's a little scary every once in a while. But I have been back through there 8 different times now.
Oh my God.
Specifically looking for carcass, droppings, or anything to suggest something is or was alive, right? Now the only things that I have found back there are very personal items. A tobacco pouch, playing cards, keys, crushed up packs of cigarettes, beer cans, things like that. So nothing suggesting an animal yet, right? Again, I realize I'm not done with this yet, but still, it is pretty interesting stuff. Guys, usually people are good for about 30 to 45 minutes up here. You may start to feel physically sick. We've had plenty of people toss their cookies up here, which makes for a super fantastic day for me. I will say this, if you guys aren't feeling a little weird or queasy or anything like that, I swear to God, you will feel 100 times better at the bottom of the steps. Whoever it is just does not want us up here. He will say some of the most nasty, horrible things, and this is almost laughable to me, but he will tell you basically he's Satan himself. But then as you go to leave, he will beg you for alcohol and cigarettes and things like that. So I try to be a good host, and I try, you know what I mean? Like, it's not just me on a rough day. It's just, you know, it's more of a peace offering. Let me do my job, I'll let you do your job type of deal. You know what I mean? Now guys, let's cruise back downstairs where it's a little cooler.
After the tour, we split up and began to explore the building on our own. I wandered into Susie's room to reintroduce myself to her. It was important for me to get on Susie's good side because later that night I was planning to sleep in her room. I brought her a gift, a unicorn headband in her favorite color, pink. Susie, I told you I would be right back with a present for you. Here it is. Do you like that? So this little headband is a present for you. I hope you like it. I picked it out thinking of you. Where would you like me to put it? Can you tell me where to put it? Shall we let the bunny wear it? I like your bunny. Oh, he's so soft. Goodness. That is the softest bunny I've ever felt. Wow. I think he likes the unicorn head thing. I think it looks good on him. And it's pink. I understand pink is your favorite color. And boy, oh boy, look at this. Somebody left you Scooby snacks. Let's take a picture of the Scooby snacks. That's very cute. Well, I am very happy to be visiting you today. Can I take a pink crayon and color in your book a little bit? Should we make one of the sheep pink? Here he is. Look at that pretty, pretty pink sheep with that pretty wool. So what color should we use next? Which color do you think is a good color to use next? Green? Blue? Let's see if we can find a blue crayon. There's blue. I must have made a good impression on her, because as we colored together, I believe I caught Susie's voice making a noise of approval. I've repeated it and slowed it down some. Listen and see what you think. Oh, that's not blue, that's purple. But that's okay. We can make a purple sheep, right? Yeah? Oh,
That's not blue, that's purple. But that's okay. We can make a purple sheep, right? Yeah? Oh, that's not blue, that's purple. But that's okay. We can make a purple sheep, right? Yeah? I think a purple sheep looks just fine. Should we do green next? No? Which color should we do next? You tell me. Tell me which color we should use next.
Okay, so we're coming here to.
Should we use red? Let's use red. There. Pretty red sheep. Okay, Susie, I'm going to go to another part of the building. You can stay here, it's okay. And I will be back.
Later, a couple of investigators and I went to Gracie's room. Remember how earlier Josh said that Gracie will sometimes manifest a harsh urine smell? She definitely made her presence known to us in her room.
Oh, my right arm.
My right leg.
My right knee.
It's like right on my elbow. Like somebody's holding my elbow.
Gracie, are you touching her elbow?
Well, thank you, Gracie. You are more than welcome to use my energy to do whatever you need to do to get the ghost to light up or to make the green light turn to red. You cannot hurt me. You can't punch me. You can't kick me. You can't bite me. You can't scratch me.
Feeling spiders. Yes, sometimes when spirits are close to us and touch us, it does feel like little spiders. Is that what you're going to try to do?
Yeah, it is.
Are you making Kendra feel like she has little spiders?
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yep. I'm happy for you to do what you need to do to get the energy to show us you're here.
Gracie, I was in here earlier and felt a spider web on my hand. Were you trying to hold my hand or touch me?
I just changed.
Okay. Ask her again.
When I was in here earlier, Gracie, I felt spider webs. Were you touching my hand?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, she made him. Hey, uncross them, please. Gracie, are you still here?
Whoa, it is cold right here.
Yeah. I'm actually comfortable for once.
No, it is like cold.
Now, the recorder shut itself off before the smell manifested. That was a theme for the evening, as you'll hear later. But the way Gracie manifested was undeniable and a bit comical. The other investigators started to say things like, "Oof, what's that smell?" I have rather a poor sense of smell, so for a moment or two I had no idea what they were on about. But then a sour stench of stale piss smacked me in the face. It was so strong it almost made my eyes water. Now I knew what the other investigators were talking about. By this time it was about 1:30 in the morning. The investigation was over at 2 a.m. But unbeknownst to me, the most exciting part of the evening was yet to come. Let me set the scene for you. 3 other investigators, all women, and I were standing in the nursing home hallway at the T intersection just past the nurses' station. This is the hallway that's the home of the dark figure that rushes people and generally scares the paste out of them. We were all concentrating on the end of the hallway, hoping that the entity would put in an appearance. He didn't, but what happened next was even better. One of the investigators had a pair of dowsing rods and was using them to ask questions of any entities that were around. Now, at the end of the hallway was the dark spirit's door, but directly across the hallway was a room commonly called the dizzy room. People in that room can experience disorienting vertigo. I'd been in the room earlier that evening with no effects whatsoever. But now it seemed I was being called to try my luck again. The dowsing rods in the investigator's hands pointed straight at the door of the dizzy room, then swung and pointed at me. Well, I'm never one to back down from a challenge, even if it's a silent one. I made sure my recorder was running and stepped into the room. I stood still for a few moments, my knees soft, ready for whatever the room would throw at me. An electrical jolt shuddered through me and danced in my elbows and knees and tingled in the tips of my fingers. I yelped in delighted surprise. It felt like grabbing a hold of live wire, but it didn't hurt at all. It was just incredibly trippy. Then I realized that the floor under my feet was moving. The sensation was exactly like the feeling of standing on a moving train and feeling that vibration of swift motion under my feet. It was incredible. So, like an idiot, I walked out of the room to share it with the others. They, meanwhile, had had some serious doubts about my well-being. After assuring them I was perfectly fine, I realized, what the heck am I doing out in the hall? I need to get back into that room. I looked down at my recorder and saw to my dismay that the recording had shut itself off 11 seconds into my dizzy room experience. I went back in, stood in the exact same spot, made sure the recorder was working, and begged, "Do it again!" hoping for another full body vibration. Alas, it didn't happen. But the floor kept wobbling under my feet, which is an amazing experience in itself. I don't know how much of that other recording was lost, but I'm standing in this room, and I'm still wobbling, and I got this weird full body shiver. My entire legs, my arms, everything was tingling. And I don't know if the recording stopped at that point with that energy surge, but we'll find out when we listen to it. Okay. We listen to recording 11.
Something on the back.
We'll find out
on the shoulder blade.
That's where it's been touching.
When the other recording stopped, because it just stopped in the middle.
On both sides.
So, all right, again, whoever that is, thank you for showing me that you're here. I appreciate that. And I hope you did not bork my recording, but well, the interesting stuff happened. Weenie.
I really thought she was going to face plant.
That was...
You could watch her and she was just doing that.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me. It's just, well...
It looked like she was totally going to go forward and face plant.
Oh, that was...
Trippy
and amazing and awesome and cool.
Who needs a dog when you can be in the funhouse room?
Right?
I have the word evening.
I have that. That's why I'm wanting to.
Okay, so you're not gonna make me tingle anymore?
But it's not going to phase us like some others.
If you're not, I'll go ahead and step out of the room. But thank you for that experience. I really do appreciate it. That was all kinds of awesome. It was.
Funny.
All kinds of awesome would be if you would come on it.
I seriously thought you were gonna face that because it was just she was just real.
The weeble wobble.
Just real gentle, real slow, and then all of a sudden. Like,
Really? I didn't feel that forward motion. I just felt that tingle.
I was getting ready to jump up to help you get up because I thought you were gonna face plant.
Gosh, this again.
God, I hope that came out on the recorder.
It's weird that it blanked out on you though.
Yeah. It said recording interrupted. Spider webs on the hand that's holding the phone.
I saw a shadow come out from the door of a web.
Oh yeah?
Got the weeble wobble thing going again. It feels like the floor is uneven under my feet.
Like the fun house.
Yes, like a fun house.
That's how I felt upstairs.
Yeah?
Like shut
Okay, you're not going to do that again, are you? Too bad. It's like grabbing a live wire. I think what you're doing is very interesting. The way you're playing with energy. Can you give me that full body tingle again? At 2 a.m., the investigation was over, but I wasn't done yet. I hunted up Josh and made him walk upstairs with me and tuck me in. He helped me clear away all the coloring books and crayons from Susie's bed, and I rolled out my sleeping bag. Then I took out my little jar of salt and salted the doorway, and Josh said, "Hey, good idea." Then he went off to his own bed on the sofa in the office. I was alone, with the other humans sleeping a long hallway and a whole floor away. I was alone with the spirits. I went to shut the door and discovered that it wouldn't close. Have any of you out there in Electron Land ever read the Chronicles of Narnia? Do you remember the part in Voyage of the Dawn Treader where Lucy has to stand in the magician's study on the island of the Dufflepuds and read the spell to make invisible things visible, and has to stand with her back to the open door? I realized just then how incredibly freaky that would have been, because here I was, about to go to sleep surrounded by invisible things, and just like Lucy, I couldn't close the door. Unlike her, though, I don't have a spell for making invisible things visible. More's the pity. Anyway, I got ready for bed. Again, this is for Lights Out. The things I do for you guys. Like I used to say, I can't believe I'm doing this. But I am about to try and go to sleep in Susie's room. I have salted the doorway. I hope that's sufficient. I know what I'm doing. I know I'm just procrastinating turning the light off. Okay, so, guys, wish me luck. Then I turned out the light. Now, I did mention that this was in June. There's no air conditioning in that huge old building except in the hotel lobby. So I could tell myself that the sounds I was hearing from the hallway were simply the sounds of the building settling. Although that didn't explain the footsteps I heard in the hallway. Nor did it explain the woman's laughter I heard a bit later. By 6 a.m. the sun was shining brightly through the window, and it was still beastly hot. I knew I needed more sleep, so I gathered up my sleeping bag and pillow and wandered downstairs to the lobby. There, in the cool darkness, I was able to catch a couple more hours of sleep. This visit to Malvern Manor was incredible, and I can't wait to get back there. In the next episode, we'll be exploring a place on many a ghost hunter's bucket list, Penhurst Asylum. Tune in next time as we go lights out.